This is Karen, Coaches Chats podcast. Today we have Jay Gravatte on. Jay, give us a little bit of input, a little background, who you are and what you're up to.
Well, I'm Jay Gravatte. Long time. I've been coached high school soccer pretty much from 2004 to 2019. So pretty much as soon as I got out of high school. Recently made the switch from high school to club this year, coaching at Mockingbird Valley Premier here in Louisville. It's been a great experience. Got great kids, great parents. It's a great club. They're supportive of their coaches, and I'm really enjoying that experience. Started up my own individual training business this past summer. Did pretty well. We're off to a good start. Looking to expand a little bit in 2021, safely, hopefully. And then this past summer, I published my first coaching book called Prime. It's about my coaching experiences over the last 15, 16 years. And it was a lot of fun to write, and it's been a lot of fun to tell people about. So got a lot going on, very busy.
Yeah.
Also had my second child in October.
So, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. So 2020 has been a busy year. Thank you.
So my first question is, what caused you to step away from the high school game and move to club?
It was more of a family based decision. My last season with coaching high school, I tend to, as most coaches do, I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. And I really felt like we had a chance to win the region my last year. That would have been a first for us at Fairdale. Didn't happen. But in that process, you put so much pressure on yourself, it wears you out, and you're not the dad that you need to be, not the husband that you need to be. I overscheduled probably. And so there were a couple weeks there where I didn't see my son from Sunday night through Wednesday afternoon. I mean, so that's not good. So it was time for a change. It was just time for a change, time for a new experience, one that I can maybe be in more control of. And it's been as crazy as it sounds, it's been a little bit more of a less is more type of soccer experience for me. So
yeah, it's funny because I used to coach basketball, and those are some long stinking nights as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time once we had our third, my wife was like, all right, something's got to change a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's huge. I'm finding that more and more, the self-reflection part, as coaches, trying to find that balance and not like burn out is huge.
Yeah. Burnout has always been my battle. I go, again, like a lot of coaches do, we put so much time and effort into it. And, sometimes we make the mistake of every training session and every game being life or death. And, we gotta remember, hey, this is part of a slow build. It's a slow process, and we need to enjoy it more. And that's always been one of my struggles. One of these days I will get back to coaching high school, and I'm hoping that I can enjoy it more than I have, which I shouldn't say that I haven't enjoyed it, but the process needs to be more fun. I need to do that for myself.
When and if you go back to the high school game, what things do you think you will do differently than your previous 15 years?
I'm probably going to need to make some adjustments to my conditioning regimen. Not for me in particular, absolutely, but for my players as well. When I was at Fairdale, we would go 5 days a week in the summer, and we do 3-hour sessions, mostly because we weren't in position to do 2-a-days. A lot of our kids had to work. We had a lot of kids whose families relied on them a lot, so we had to give them those afternoons so that they can work. If I could go back and do that all over again, I would probably do 3 days conditioning and then 1 day of just which we did technical work every day, but then give 1 day of just straight technical fun activities, and then Friday be off. And that would have allowed me to spend more time with my family, and that would have given the kids more time to regroup and relax and everything. And we put them through the grind a little bit there. So I think I would do that differently as a high school coach moving forward.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things I learned, because this is my first year this past year as a high school coach.
Okay.
Was feeling the pressure to try to get so much done in a small period of time.
Yeah.
And then there was that realization when we started playing, and I was like, there's just no way. There's just too much. To develop the program is going to take time. So I'm already focused on my freshmen, sophomores coming up, and what have you. Not that I'm kind of like you, not that I'm not putting my 100% into my seniors and juniors, but
Right.
I realized pretty quick, like you're going to have to kind of just build slowly as you go through it.
And that's such a hard, you'll find this out, coach, on the high school level. You don't want to alienate your upperclassmen, right? You want to invest in them, especially if you're in position to win now. That it took a long time for me to toe that line where, that the juniors and seniors would understand that I'm investing everything I can into them. But at the same time, we've got a future to look out for as well. Yeah. And you got to find a way to communicate that. You got to find a way every decision has to back up what you tell a senior that, hey, I'm investing in you. But at the same time, I got to get the sophomore in because he's going to be playing your spot, odds are, next year. So that's a very fine line you got to walk. And it takes a while to develop that skill, I guess.
What age are you going to be doing in the club scene?
Right now, I've got a 2008 group, so I guess that puts us at U13. So I think that's, and I'm really enjoying this group. So I guess next year we would be up to U14. I'm assuming. I think that, or yeah. So it's that middle school age group now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun little group because usually you've got some talent in the mix and some kids that are like the diamond in the rough that hasn't kind of found that, like, where it's clicked yet.
Right. I think one thing I enjoyed about this, and there was a little bit of an adjustment from coaching high school, the kids I had, you could still have, I don't want to say when you're coaching high school, you can have some brutally honest conversations.
Yes.
With a 17-year-old kid. You can borderline, you can have man-to-man conversations.
Yep.
And when you're coaching 2008s, maybe not be brutally honest. There needs to be more positive reinforcement there in that conversation. But at the same time, you're in position to tell a kid, hey, what you are seeing right now from yourself is nothing compared to what you're going to see from yourself the summer before you start high school. I'm talking body-wise, skill-wise, and everything. So it's easier for you to tell a kid, hey, man, just keep working hard, keep putting in the time at home, and all of a sudden it's going to add up one day. And those legs that you don't think you have now, you're going to have them in 2 years.
Yes.
And you're going to be able to do something with them. You're going to be in a position to do something with them. So I think you're in way more position to tell the middle school kids right now, or even younger kids than that you just keep working hard. It's going to eventually come to you.
Yeah, and it sometimes is difficult. I'm sure at the high school I'm noticing that because even with dealing with my seniors this year, that every game got them one more game closer to the end of their career. From not, the majority of kids don't move on to like college as much as maybe we would hope, but
right.
So there is that. It's sometimes like, yeah, but coach, I mean, I only got 3 more games, so how locked in can I be? But I can see what you're saying about the middle school kid. Like, dude, just keep dreaming, keep pushing, and going after it.
Right.
Your individual training type experience, what has that been like? Because I've done a little bit of on my own as well, and I'd love to hear how that's been.
For me, it's been, I feel like I've been really fortunate this year here during the pandemic and everything. I was still able to work with a lot of different kids. I worked with kids that were 5 years old, and I worked with kids that were 15 or 16 years old. So very much beginner to, novice to, developed player. And, so it was required quite a bit of planning. It was, you had to, the term we have in education, differentiated planning, right?
Yep.
And so I got to have some fun working with the little kids, and just, my goal mostly with this was make them love the game. Even the high schooler I got to work with this year, make them love the game, and that way they won't get discouraged and quit. And and to me, the more love they have for the game, the more fun they can associate with soccer, the more likely they are to develop as a player, because they're going to be eager to get those touches on the ball. They're going to, it did. And really and truly, I'll tell you this, when I worked with a family, I told them, I said, look, if you want to just work with me one time and then take these ideas back home to the backyard and have your kid do that, that's fantastic. I want them working in the backyard and the park, wherever. And so I feel like I was able to offer a fun experience this year. Working with some of the older kids, it was easier for me to relate to them a little bit more because of their because I just got done coaching high school. So I was able to see things through their eyes a little bit easier maybe than I did the 10-year-olds. But at the end of the day, it was all about I want them to love the game. I want them to go home and get touches on the ball. And a lot of them did that. A lot of them ended up having pretty good fall seasons. So
Good.
I'm calling it a success. I feel good about it.
And what do you what's the name of your training?
Step to the ball soccer training.
And so I always love looking at names of things. So what was, I mean, I kind of have my own thought of why, but why call it step to the ball?
Mostly because one thing I found, coaching high school, I would always tell the kids, like, even if, because a lot of times most of the schools I've worked at, we didn't have a ton of talent, right? Not a lot of technical ability. So we had to work on that a lot. But I said, guys, at the end of the day, step to the ball. That ball's bouncing. There's a goal kick played and it bounces once. It better not bounce twice. That was one of the things I told my midfielders all the time. That ball better not bounce twice. And step to it. Do something with it, because that means the opponent isn't getting a hold of the ball and controlling it and doing something with it. And you can keep yourself in a lot of games by not stepping to the ball. I mean, and there's so many examples I can point out where a player doesn't step to the ball and they whiff. A player doesn't step to the ball and their shot is not as strong.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's almost like a metaphor, or I guess the metaphor for life. Guys, if you step to the ball, step to that problem, you're in control of it. You have a better chance of controlling it and putting it where you want it to go. Whereas if you lay back and you lean back and let it come to you, there's not a guarantee that things are gonna go your way. So
I think that's so cool. The connection between the game and then the life type thing of, if you sit back, you're going to do a whole bunch of shoulda, coulda, woulda. But even
mhm,
if you step up, I think the big thing too is getting kids to like, I'm sure you dealt with even the younger ones or even the high schoolers, like you said, maybe not technically strong. Like, here, let's do it. But I'm going to tell you, in 2, 3 weeks, this skill that we're working on now, all of a sudden you're going to become more fluent with, or like, oh, I know your left foot's not your strongest foot, but all of a sudden you're being more confident with the ball at your feet.
right. When you step to the ball, um, you can shoot with that left foot. That's what I've told the kids as well. When you step to the ball, because you're not thinking about it, and you can shoot with your left foot. You can pull off a volley with your left foot. I think back to my experiences in high school, and without sounding too much like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, some of my favorite, the goals that I can remember scoring were ones where I just stepped to the ball and I didn't think about it. And there was a volley one night from the 18 that went off the crossbar, bounced off the line, and went into the net. It was a beautiful shot. I look back on that like that happened because I stepped to it. My senior year, I stepped to the ball. The ball was at the 6, and I stepped to it, and I megged the best keeper in the region with my left foot. And so you really, when you're stepping to it, your superpowers as a soccer player, to me, become limitless. You'd be shocked at what you can pull off when you step to it, but you got to step to it.
And the other thing that was really eye opening for me this year was mentality, like
Hmm.
confidence and that ability. Like those kids that constantly just would, like you said, almost just run through the ball, would win 50-50s, or when a ball was played to them, they always got the first touch on it. Or like you said, on
Hmm.
goal kicks, they were ones that would battle for that second ball. Um,
Right.
and it's amazing how just that analogy of step to it, it's only 3 words, but
Hmm.
has so much power to it. I think that's really, really awesome.
Right. Right. Yeah. Thank you. Um, that's been something, because I try to relate to my players as much as I can through my own experiences. And I was never a tall player. I always had to rely on, just when I went in, I had to go all in with body because I didn't have the legs to reach for a ball.
Mhm.
Right. So I would have to step to it. If I had any chance of winning this 50-50 ball, or doing something with the ball, I had to step to it and bring my whole body and get some piece of it with my shoulder, my head, my chest, whatever. And that kept me number one. That made me an effective player. And I tell my teams, guys, when we step to the ball, if we're outmatched from a technical standpoint, this can keep us in the game.
Mhm.
Now we got to have some discipline about ourselves. We can't go running 100 miles an hour at a kid that's very disciplined, that's very skilled with the ball, because we're gonna make him look like an All-American. But it keeps us in games to be able to step to the ball and win it and do something with it. It's better than them having it at their feet and them being in position to attack.
That's also one of those things where you always hear like control the controllables. And so the technical and the ability to do some things may not be in your wheelhouse, but you
Right.
can control effort and focus and like you said in your words, step to the ball.
Check this out. My first year coaching high school, I was 21, or my first year as a head coach, I was 21. And we went 0 and 14 and 2. You know, for years I thought we went 0 and 13, and then we started my podcast. And the guy that does the podcast with me, Chris Mattingly, this kid's a dog when it comes to doing research, right? He's like, no, y'all were actually 0 and 14. I'm like, thanks.
Thank you.
But
We can skip that last loss, please.
I went 15 years thinking we only lost 13 games that year. God, somebody tacked another one on us. But the next year, we had a 5-game. So we won 5 games the next year. And at that school, 5 wins in the soccer season is a pretty good year, right?
Yeah.
There's just not a deep talent pool. And great. It was a great place to coach, though. One of the things that I think contributed to our turnaround was we started keeping track of. It's like, okay, we're not going to score a lot of goals, so let's have another reason to give out an award. Let's keep stats on winning 50-50 balls, and we would set goals every game. Hey, I want to win. If we win, I want to win 10 50-50 balls this first half. If we win 15 in the second half, there's a good chance we're going to be in position to win the game. And I think we became one of the more aggressive teams in the region that year, and that region also included the state champs. So, yeah, I think keeping track of winning 50-50 balls. Now, eventually, you got to teach them how to, what to do with them next. That's probably the hard part.
We won the ball. Now what?
Right. That's probably the hard part at this point in time. But and we'll get there eventually. We felt like that was another way to reinforce that, guys, we can win games. We won 50-50 balls, 40-50 balls this last game against a good team, So it was just one more thing to point to and say, look, we can do this.
So then all of this that you've gone through in the last 14, 15 years of coaching, actually, the other thing is at 21, what's that dynamic like when you're like some of these players that are in the high school program are absolute grown men. So I just wonder what's it like at 21.
We did not, so that was my second year with the program. The first year when I was 20, I was an assistant coach. And that year we had a senior class full of grown men, and they graduated. But I was also really fortunate too. I had a group of kids that were eager to learn. They were respectful. I believe as a coach, you come in. Now it's up to you as the coach to keep scoring what I call trust points with the kids. But every coach comes in with house money, just with the coach title alone. Yeah. It's up to you to build on that. And so I like to think that I built on that a little bit. So the kids were respectful from the get-go. I think they liked my enthusiasm. I think they liked the intensity that I brought. I tried to, at that point in time, to this day, that's been probably my biggest flaw as a coach is I haven't been patient enough. And so they put up with my impatience as a 21-year-old. So, those kids were wonderful. So it wasn't too, it was very much coach-player dynamics and everything. It wasn't, from what I recall, I don't think there was a lot of conversations where I wasn't taken seriously at all. It can be hard to take a small guy like me seriously who's throwing a fit out on the field.
Was coaching something that was always kind of in, like, it's just something, because at the age of 20 to say, I'm going to go and work with help out with the high school team, that's a pretty cool jump to make at that point.
I pretty much decided when I was a junior or senior that I wanted to be a history teacher and a soccer coach. I graduated from high school and there wasn't really anything stopping me. And when I went to Western Kentucky University, and when I got there, I wanted to try out for a walk-on spot. And it's funny, it's one of those conversations where everything happens for a reason. I wanted to try out for a walk-on spot, and I was playing basketball one night, and because that's what we did. We studied for 30 minutes and then go play basketball for 3 hours.
Yep.
So I was playing basketball one night up at the gym on campus, and somebody came out I was going up for a layup, and somehow or another I had gotten high enough where somebody came out from under me though, and took my feet out from under me, so I landed on my tailbone, and I was out of commission. So, but I was trying to get in shape that spring so that I could try out for a walk-on spot, and I wasn't going to be in shape to pull it off. And so I was like, well, let's go ahead and try and see if there's any coaching jobs. Someone see if there's a staff in town that I can get on board with. And Warren East High School was they didn't have anybody beating down the door to join their staff. They weren't winning games. It was, like I said, not too deep of a talent pool. And so they were eager to have me out. And the next year, so in 2000, my sophomore year at Western, I was an assistant coach. And then my junior year, I was named the head coach, like right before I turned 21.
Wow, that's awesome. That's almost goes back to your whole step to it idea of like, look, this didn't work out. Like you were stepping toward the idea of like, I'm going to go try to walk on because who knows what's going to happen. It didn't work out. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and pout about it. Like I'm going to now go and let's see what my next challenge I can take on.
Right. And Kieran, I don't know if you're this way or not, but, I have to have some kind of soccer in my life. Me and my wife have had that conversation multiple times. And when the conversation came up that I was going to need to move on from high school, I told her, I said, we got to do something. You've seen that guy that doesn't have anything with soccer in his life.
Yeah.
You've lived with that guy. I don't think you want to do it again. So it's just all about finding balance now at this point in time.
So the book that you wrote, does
Yes.
that kind of encompass the whole experience from that 20-year-old to who you are now?
Part of it, yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. I may need to go back and read through it again and see if you see this, see if you see this development. I don't know. Wow, that's a great perspective. So I hope so, because that's a pretty cool thought. There's some, and check this out, Karen. There are some things. My high school experience playing soccer was not a good one. We won 10 games my freshman through junior year. For good reasons and bad. My senior year, we were able to salvage it. We ended up with the first winning record in school history. Okay. And we had a good group of guys surrounding me. We had some good younger underclassmen too. And so I guess part of my mission as a coach has been, may sound like too dramatic of a term, but almost like borderline vigilante, making sure that other kids don't have the same unfortunate experiences that I did playing, whether it's club soccer or high school soccer. No kid should feel anxiety about going to practice. No kid should feel anxiety about going to play games. They should be amped up, ready to have some fun. And so as a 20 or 21-year-old, I wanted to build culture. I wanted to change culture. And that's still me to this day. I'm 36 now, and that's still me today. Technical development can happen at its best when there's a good culture within the team. And then winning's going to come because it's going to be a byproduct of that. We're not going to skip everything else and try and go straight to winning, because nobody's going to enjoy that win, especially the coach. So, that's been my philosophy: experience first, development, then winning. And if you can get all three of those in one season, within a 1 or 2 season span, you're doing pretty good, I feel like.
What is required to write a book?
Time, time. And, I was working on my second master's degree when I started this book. My first child had just been born. So when I got this thing published, I was like, when did I find time to write this? How did I pull this off? And now I'm kind of thinking back to, I was probably sitting in grad class, and one of those 3 or 4 hour grad classes, and I probably took some liberties there and knocked a lot of it out then. My wife tells me that I got up a lot of early mornings and worked on it. So I was like, okay, that sounds about right.
So, and what was just the opportunity to share? Was that kind of the impetus behind going and doing this?
Yeah, I think so. I think I always felt like, and I think for the record, I think every coach has a story. I would encourage every coach to, once you've coached especially if you've coached for a decade, but for even at least 5 years, write a book. For Karen, for your first season, start with some blogs and then put it into a book at some point, because we all have different experiences. We all have horror stories to share. We all have funny stories to share about the kids. We all have those kids that inspire us. We all have those aha moments. And that's what this book is full of. I mean, it talks. I mean, it's called Prime because that's an acronym. You know, P for persistence, R for resilience, I for integrity, the M stands for management, and the E stands for experience. And these are all things that go into running a successful, not just soccer program, but any program or club, right, or organization, I guess. And so each chapter, um, talks about examples from my experiences, examples of resilience, examples of integrity, how management plays, why being a good manager, almost like a business manager comes into play when running your program. So I think it's a must read for, I mean, I've felt really good about this book since I finished it. And I think it's a must read for any coach. I really do. So I'm sending one your way, man.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I can't wait to look into it. And I'll also share in the notes for this, how people can go about getting their book as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll kind of share
That'd be great.
that type of stuff. So let's look forward 10 years. Would there be a Prime Squared or Prime, like a second book maybe?
Yeah, because I have this thing where and we're going to talk about it on my on Step to the podcast tonight, where about reflecting, because this is the time of year where we all probably need to reflect.
Yeah.
And so the role of reflection with coaches and everything. And I don't know if it's a flaw or not, but everything I do, it's like, okay, I think I can do better the next time. Let's see if we could top this. And so with this book, I've actually started a book based on player development. I'm stuck in probably the third chapter right now. And I've been stuck probably since the baby's been born. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. So I may sit back and let things, and that was what was so great about this book. Things just kept coming to me with Prime. And it's like, I got to get that in the book. Right. So I think I'm just going to let things come to me with this next player development book. I don't have a working title for it yet. I've got the first 2 chapters done. But I feel like I'm stuck on the chapter about player discipline, and not so much like the role of the coach in disciplining players, but how a player can discipline themselves. I'm stuck in that spot. So I don't want to sound like an old man lecturing, and that's why I'm stuck. So I gotta find another angle. But I think you can expect at least 1, maybe 2 more, and then we'll just see what opportunities I have to work on them.
So you mentioned your own podcast. So it sounds like you love like sharing your experiences, sharing ideas, and getting things out there.
I do. Now I will say this, we're going to do the self-reflection episode tonight. And then in 2021, last week I talked about how, all right, I'm tired of talking about myself. Let's get some other coaches on. So Karen, we're going to get you on eventually.
Oh, nice. I appreciate it.
We want you to share your story, and we're going to get all kinds of other coaches on, players probably, anybody that's gotten to play a role with some kind of soccer in our community, and maybe even beyond that. Uh-huh. And I want to hear their stories. I'm a big believer. Every coach has a story. So if every coach were able to write a book, man, there's no telling what kind of information would be shared. And, I think it would be a big thing for U.S. soccer, honestly.
Yeah, I think it would be valuable because I think, you see so much of and we talked about it before we started, like how Twitter, it's hard to get a feel for people off of just their comments. And, you can never feel tone in it. Mm-hmm. So you don't know if people are whatever. But you don't know people's backgrounds. So it's really cool to kind of see where people are at. Like you're in Louisville, and I've talked to people, from New Jersey to Cleveland to Oklahoma. Yeah. It's just like crazy.
Yeah.
And then everybody, like you said, has their own different story that they're working through. And sometimes we get so polarized about certain ideas that are out there.
Right.
That you miss all the other stuff around it, that like there's a lot of good stuff going on with youth players. Having guys, quality coaches like you who have been at the high school level, that for those kids at the middle school age, and say, look, I was there. Mm-hmm. I know what it's going to be like. Just be ready for, like, there's going to be some teams that are not very technical, but they'll bruise. They're just going to run you over as much as that's their player. So you got to get used to that. Mm-hmm. And I think too, for you, I think it's exciting at the club level, because you can start getting the parents ready
mm-hmm.
for high school a little bit. Do you have
Right.
any great parent stories, or have you had enjoyable, good times with the parents for the most part?
I've been probably for the last decade, when I was at Fairdale High School, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Uh, I'll never be able to thank those parents enough. The ones like we didn't have a lot of parent involvement, but what we did was awesome. And I think awesome is also probably an understatement to describe those people. They would take care of the kids that couldn't be taken care of by their own parents in terms of, making sure they had cleats, making sure they had food for games and everything. Me and my wife, we played, I mean, my gosh, me and my wife's second date was going to the grocery store and putting together snack bags for a tournament. So she's a champ. But, the parents that we had though, at Fairdale High School were just so they bought in right away. There was no questioning. They believed in me right away and they rolled with it. So I was very, very fortunate to have them. The second school I coached at, not as many pleasant experiences, and that's why I was probably only there for 3 years. And then when I was when I was 21 and at Warren East High School down in Bowling Green, our parents, now we had a couple that you'd walk away rolling your eyes, but for the most part, our parents there were a pretty awesome group of people as well. So for the most part, I'd say I've been pretty fortunate. So with our parents.
It seems like the message that you convey to the players about expectations and like it seems like character and just the way you hold yourself and stuff is huge. And any parent that sees that, it's got to be like, all right, beyond maybe this the results on the field. I love like what he's holding my kid to a high level. He's speaking
Right.
quality stuff into him. So parents usually love that kind of stuff.
And I think most importantly, this is something I picked up on coaching club this year. Parents love a coach. And I've always known that parents love a coach that's transparent, right? Like if you're transparent with them, your communication is effective. They'll support you if you say you want to go play a tournament on the moon. I mean, they will. But also more importantly, when a parent sees that their kid is looking forward and excited to go to practice and go to games and there's no anxiety, especially in a year like we've had with 2020 and everything that's gone on, that's meant a lot to our parents. And I think it's up to us coaches to make sure our kids are, when they get to practice, they're relaxed, right? And if they're not relaxed, you can sense that they're in a bad mood about something, get them in a good mood somehow, some way. And that's an opportunity for you to develop your culture. And then when you're done with practice, make sure it ends on a positive note. Don't send anybody home saying, well, we'll try again tomorrow. That ain't going to work. Tell the kid, hey, give them something positive, give them something to feel good about themselves. Never let a kid leave that feels like the loss was on them. If you've got a keeper that gives up a late goal or something like that, before they leave that day and get on social media, get your arm around them and say, it wasn't your fault, man. All right. We lose as a team. So when you do those things, I think you're developing your culture, but you're also developing trust with your parents.
I think that one thing I've always heard too is your biggest kind of evaluation as a coach, is, especially at like when they're younger, is that they come back to play the next year. So I think it's kind of like you said, like I love just being there at practice. I love just showing up. Like, and parents love the fact that they can have an hour and a half, whatever it is, and they know their son is or daughter's out there doing something active and loving it. That's huge.
Every kid, check this out. Here's one thing I believe, I'm a big believer on with my team environments and everything. I want every kid to feel like they have a chance to be playing in crunch time. Now that's not a reality, but they feel like, I want every kid to feel like they're not that far off from being out on the field the last 5 minutes of the game. Inclusive environments are so important. We got to invest, even the kids that aren't developed. Every coach can just focus on the 10 or 11 kids. Every coach, being high school, every coach can focus on their starting 11, and whatever the 5 or 6 kids on the bench do, they do. I don't see it that way, because people get hurt, people get red cards and everything.
Yep.
Let's develop everybody. And I want kids feeling like it's an inclusive environment. Check this out. My first year as a head coach, I was 21, right? 0-13. 0-14, my bad.
Yep. Got to stats, man. Thank you, Chris.
Gosh. 0-14, right? And we had maybe at best 20 kids altogether on the roster that season. The next year, we jumped to 34 kids, and that's after a winless season.
Wow.
So what might that tell you about the experience that those kids had?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
That word of mouth, like guys talking, the camaraderie, like, dude, we had a blast. You need to be a part of this.
Yeah, kids want to feel like they're a part of something. Coaches do. So you're right. So that's the big thing. If you don't have that before to me, if you don't have that, your technical training is only going to go so far, and you're probably not going to overachieve when it comes to winning games.
Right on. Right on. So Jay is a club coach. You have a podcast, a book out, some individual training. Is there any other thing that we're missing?
I think that's it, man.
That's awesome.
I hope so. So, and I got 2 kids and a great wife, and I'm feeling pretty fortunate these days.
Yeah. So it's so awesome that here, and hopefully everybody's healthy and everything with all the craziness that's going on. But
yeah, hopefully everybody's healthy. I had a headache last night, and I was like, "Oh, please don't let it be." Please.
I know, isn't that funny? It's not funny, but it's just everything that you feel, you're like, "Oh, could this be something?" It's always constantly it's part of your decision making process now.
Right.
Everything you do.
Right. Right.
So Jay, if people want to follow up or check out the book or check out your podcast that'll be coming out, the Reflections, I know I've hopped on and listened to a couple episodes because you always tag me in, which I love. How can people get a hold of you? Check out some of the stuff you're putting out.
You can find me on. Well, first of all, I've got a YouTube channel, and that's going to be Step to the Ball Soccer Training. I've got an Instagram at Step to the Ball. I've got a TikTok that I haven't updated it in a while, but at Step to the Ball. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Step to the Ball. And I'm on Facebook as well. It's just as Jay Gravatte. Step to the Ball Soccer Training does have a page on Facebook as well. So that's probably the best way.
So if people can't find you, they're not really actually trying. They didn't step to the ball to find Step to the Ball.
That is so correct. Yeah. And hey, listen, let me, if you give me a chance here to plug real quick, I'm looking to do some book signings here in 2020 or coming up in 2021. I'm looking to do some team camps in 2021. So anybody that's listening or watching, if you're looking for an additional voice to come in for a couple days with your program, hit me up. I'm ready to get started on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jay, I really appreciate you hopping on. Hey, this is Kieran with the Coaches Chats podcast, and I'm out. Peace.